All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Stick Talk podcast. We're here in the beautiful Grand Cathedral Cigars in Tampa. If you haven't already, check it out. It's a cool place to visit, as you can see from the setup. But this is episode 10, double digits. Pretty
10,
dope.
wow.
Things are
we made it.
Things
What's
are
the
moving.
stat? Like only 1% of podcasts get to episode 10 or something?
Something crazy like that. And then
Nice.
even less, obviously, as you go up to like 100 and some other milestones. But yeah, it's cool to be here with a good friend of ours, Kai Shaw. Welcome to the show,
How
bro.
we doing?
Doing good,
thanks
man.
for having me. Number 10,
Doing
a lot
good,
of
man.
pressure. A lot of
Number
pressure. I'm
10,
gonna move that.
but first guest to double fist a cappuccino and a regular coffee. So
Yeah, it's good. Get some energy in me today. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Got to be wired for the
Yeah.
100%, dude. So cool backstory. When Christian, Dan, and I moved to Tampa about a year ago, Kai was one of the first business friends that we connected with down here. And we actually ripped the podcast like right in our living room of the apartment that we were living at with Kai. And we recorded it. It was like, what was it, like an hour and a half episode or something?
Yeah, we just started ranting. I think we were supposed to go to dinner and we missed the reservation. And,
That's great, though.
It was good.
Dude,
though.
one of
Yeah.
my favorite conversations. Like, it never got released, obviously. And so now is kind of like our second chance to catch up with Kai, see what he's been up to. And he's going to drop some wisdom for us. So without
We'll see.
going more into the abyss, Kai, if you could just give us a quick intro of who you are and what you're up to.
Yeah, man. I think, so I saw you guys. I got, 500, 600 followers on Twitter, I think.
Slept on.
And I don't. I just I'm more on the LinkedIn side of things, but I saw you guys talking about Tampa. Everyone it kept popping up. You guys obviously have a pretty solid following, and then when you were talking about moving to Tampa, I think I just DM'd you and was like, hey, welcome to Tampa. Let me know if you guys want to grab dinner or something, and we kind of started from there. But a little bit about me. I run a demand gen agency for B2B software companies, more like enterprise B2B software companies. So most of them are, they're doing like 1 to 2 million in revenue. They have some kind of outbound motion that's already going. And they're looking to scale paid media and figure out how they can create more of a predictable inbound motion. A lot of companies have a really solid outbound motion, but their inbound isn't as strong. And it's like if you're on the B2B LinkedIn side of things, like everyone's talking about demand generation versus lead gen versus all of these other keywords or what's the word? Buzzwords, yeah. All these other buzzwords. And how we define demand generation is just really product marketing at scale. So guaranteed product marketing distribution. I look at paid media the same way I would look at an organic channel. All I'm doing in paid media is just guaranteeing distribution. So the approach really shouldn't be that different. There's no direct, we don't run really direct response or anything like that. It's really just educating the market before they're ready to come and buy. So then when they're thinking about some kind of solution, they're coming to one of our clients ideally, and maybe they're comparing them against one or two other people, but they're the number one person.
They're top of mind.
Yeah, they're top of mind.
Yeah. One thing that's super interesting about you is when we first met, Christian, Dan, and I were pretty early on, honestly, in the business and with the agency. And agency is also one of those buzzwords that's out there. A lot of people that say they own an agency, they're really just a freelancer.
Yeah.
Right. And you kind of showed us the real way of running an agency. You run a very legit agency with employees that you pay very well, which is a really cool thing and something that we also are all trying to build. So kind of take us through that journey of building a real business. Have you always been an entrepreneur? Have you always had this knack for knowing how to build companies, or how'd that all come into the fold?
I still don't know what I'm doing, but we just try to figure it out. I think it started, so I was on 3 different marketing teams. I started in medical device sales when I was in college, did a couple call center gigs. I think I've heard that theme on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff, smile and dot. Can you cuss on this thing? All right. All that shit. And it was like smile and dial. And I just learned, I think I learned a lot in each of those roles of how to sell. So I think that's number one. And then number 2, I was doing corporate marketing for all these companies, and what we were doing wasn't working. Like we were running all of these ebooks, running downloadables, running webinars, running all this stuff, but the webinar topics were boring. The ebooks were just infographics that then they're pulling stuff from like Gartner and a bunch of other sources. There was no unique angle of the content that we were putting out. And when I talk about content, like it's really anything. It could be a text post. It could be a blog. I hate the word blog, but it could be a video. It could be like content could be product marketing, like a really strong features page. And so I just saw all this stuff wasn't working, and there were a couple other agency guys kind of starting to take off on the B2B side on LinkedIn, and one of them mainly was Refine Labs, Chris Walker. He really kind of pioneered this switch to demand gen versus a lead gen, and I started applying some of the things he was saying, and he was doing these weekly meetups during COVID over Zoom, and started just applying some of those in my day-to-day role, started hiring in people onto my team, and we started executing it, and it started working. And yeah, so I guess all of that being said, like I started talking about it on LinkedIn about some of the success we were having, and started getting these random kind of consulting engagements. And I filed the LLC in like May of 2020 and was doing a couple consulting things, still running the team over at Gravy around demand gen. And after about 9 months in that role, I just realized that the consulting stuff was really coming to life. And so switched from like one-off projects into small monthly retainers. And it was just me at one point. And we kind of, you kind of puff your chest out, and like we're an agency. I had a couple of freelancers under me that I was working with. And that was an interesting like transition period, going from a full-time role into a agency with really just managing a bunch of freelancers. And then I slowly started to just build out the team. We hired a creative director to handle our ads and video editing, hired a head of client success, hired a couple paid media managers, and we still have some freelance copywriters and other people that we use. So yeah, that was kind of a long-winded answer, but
So dive into what you actually fulfill. Like, what work do you fulfill on LinkedIn? Is it like banner ads, like social media, like ads in the feed on LinkedIn? Is it DM outreach? Like, what exactly are you doing on LinkedIn to help your clients get?
So the biggest thing that people do is they're stuck on tactics. So a company will come to us and be like, "Hey, we want to launch LinkedIn ads," and I'm like, "Okay, well, show me your voice of customer research. Show me your product marketing research. Show me all of the data points that you've done already, so that you understand your customer." Like we're trying to kind of brand this thing as like customer-led demand generation. So the first 6 weeks, we're not even going to launch a campaign. We're going to get in there and look through the call recordings, look through the client success calls, look through your online reviews, and distill them down into, right now we're using a spreadsheet. We're trying to build a front end for it, but distill down and see what the common themes are, and then create a voice of customer guidelines. So you have brand guidelines, you have sales templates, you have all these templates. None of these companies have a document or a long form database of the words their customers are actually using. So once we get that voice of customer deliverable to the client, and we're all in agreement, then that document pretty much runs all of the copywriting from there. Like we can copy quotes from clients, tweak them, find new angles, find new scripts, find new outlines for videos. All of those come off of that one voice of customer document.
That's like I did a thread on Twitter about how to use ChatGPT to find pain points. And basically it was like for restaurant owners, instead of saying like, oh, we can help you generate more leads, get more sales, get more customers, the thing that restaurant owners were worried about was turning likes and follows on social media into people dining at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Because I feel like every business owner shares that same issue. Like, I want more revenue, I want more sales. But if you can go a level deeper and touch on like specific things to their niche and their specific business that makes them, they can't sleep at night, that's the thing that's going to move the needle for your copy, right?
Yeah, and like on the ChatGPT thing, I'm so sick. I'm about to block it on LinkedIn and Twitter. Like, I'm so sick.
I had to do it earlier.
Just mute the keywords.
Yeah, I'm so sick of it. I would if you're using ChatGPT, this is going to be a hot take, but if you're using ChatGPT, I think it's good.
Mine was for research. It's not writing my copy.
No, I know. But once you have like the experience, because you can now read a ChatGPT output and apply your knowledge.
Well, yeah.
to it.
If you copy paste what ChatGPT gives you for copy, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as Jasper.
Yeah.
And so Jasper's the same way. But I saw a good tweet the other day, and it said AI is not going to take your job. A human using AI is going to take your job.
Yeah.
And like, how are we using these things? Like, if you're just copying and pasting, ripping and replacing, and you don't have the foundational knowledge of what the customer is saying, it's never going to work. So before you even get on ChatGPT, you've talked to enough customers so you can do it. But like, before anyone out there who's getting started, before you go to ChatGPT to start writing things, let's say you're marketing to restaurants, go talk to 50 restaurant owners.
That's what I said in the thread. You use the ChatGPT to get these pain points, and then you go to the restaurant owners and ask them questions around that. So like, say 3 of the pain points are not enough budget, too much competition, and not enough knowledge on the topic. You go to these restaurant owners and you turn them into open-ended questions, not yes or no questions, because yes or no questions don't give you any research. But it's like, what kind of issues do you deal with facing local competition? What kind of issues do you deal with, with your marketing budget, with your knowledge of social media? And then from there, you take the exact syntax of what the restaurant owner says to you, and then you plug that into your copy.
Yeah. I think the other angle to talk about is the idea, like, offer creation is obviously really big on the Twitter side of things. I think on LinkedIn, there's a little bit different thread coming out with the really strong marketers is around category creation. So category creation versus offer creation. And like, I would say demand gen versus lead gen. So the offer and lead gen sits on this side. Demand gen and category creation sit on this side. I think if I want to break down the differences real quick, demand generation, you are marketing and you're doing product marketing to the problem. Like, you're marketing the problem people are experiencing. You're not marketing an offer or a guarantee or anything like that. I think that's the one shift that really unlocked us when we started taking on these bigger enterprise clients, is that you can only, like, everyone can build a feature now with these no-code tools and everything else. Everyone can build a feature in 48 hours, maybe less for some of the really strong no-code or developer types. So then how are you defining the market and then getting everyone to agree with your point of view?
So you're not even selling in your ads, you're just like raising awareness?
Yeah, we're not, and it's not even an awareness. I guess it's problem awareness though. So like, there's a couple companies that have done it really well, like Drift, the chatbot tool.
Yeah.
They really took a stance that forms were dead. Forms suck. Like, forms are your problem. And by the way, we just happened to not use forms to do, like, so they really sold the problem around conversational marketing. They created the category of conversational marketing. And so when people talk about how forms are dead, I think their hypothesis has kind of died because forms still work. But it was a really strong growth hypothesis from, 2015 to, I mean, they're still growing really strongly today. Dave Gerhardt over there wrote that conversational marketing book with them. And so they've built this category around conversational marketing. I think Salesforce, for like a really classic example, invented cloud software. Like, before that, everyone was, and a lot of people that are going to watch this aren't going to remember this, and I don't even remember it. I hear about it from people in the industry, but everything was server hosted on your own site. So like, if we wanted a CRM, we were hosting that internally on our own servers. The idea of cloud software didn't even exist until Salesforce came around, and they just dominated the category. Yeah. But they didn't say this is why Salesforce is good. They said this is why cloud software is good. Better security, faster. You don't have to pay for a bunch of storage. We're going to pay for it for you. You don't have to use Salesforce, but you should use someone that's doing cloud software. But because they led the conversation on it, obviously they're a multi-$100 billion company now.
So I guess, like, if someone's sitting out there, they're hearing this, it's super interesting, right? Like, how do you create a category for yourself, or how have you been able to do that with your agency, or even for your clients?
We definitely haven't created a category, but I think you have to decide first what you want to be. So there's some stats out there that the category kings, there's a guy, Chris Lockhead, and I would recommend listening to his podcast. It's really strong. He also has a Substack with a ton of long form content where he breaks this stuff down. But the category king, so the person who invents the category typically gets 70 to 76% of the market share, and then the rest of the competitors in the market have to split the last quarter. But you can be a really strong and you can build a really nice business as number 2 in a category. So you have to decide what type of scale you're going for. I personally am not trying to build the biggest agency in the world. I want to build a nice lifestyle business. I want to work with cool people and I want to pay them well. So you got to start there. Now, if you're saying, okay, I want to go into this category creation mode, you have to start telling a different story about kind of the old way versus the new way. And I can kind of break some of that down.
And is it you're solving a different problem, or this is just a new solution that's better for XYZ reason?
It's a different frame.
Yeah, it's like just fundamentally look at it differently. So we can use the Salesforce example. Like companies that are still using on-premises hosting are going to lose because they have to move slower. They have to spend more money on storage costs. They can't invest in other areas. If you move to cloud software, you're going to have all of these other benefits. And so the Andy Raskin framework, he's a really strong strategic narrative player. But you basically state the way, the problem statement is basically how the world is today. So for like an email marketing agency, it could be, decision makers are getting hundreds of emails a day, cold emails a day. I get hundreds a day. The old way is just spray and pray, send out 20,000 emails, get 5 replies, close one of them. And then you could say the new way is intelligent outreach, right? If we want to create this category of intelligent outreach, we're going to send, I was actually just talking to Scott about this yesterday at lunch, we're going to send 500 emails for you, we're going to get 50 calls, and we're going to get 10 deals because we're going to do this intelligence outreach angle, and then you break down, here's how I'm doing intelligent outreach. And so that's one way you could carve out this new category within email marketing.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
I think Daniel, who's our business partner, did that really well because when he released the cold email mastery course, he kind of did exactly what you just laid out, which is everyone's inboxes are getting flooded with cold emails. It's a volume game unless you do it this way, which is with personalization.
Yeah.
And so his category was personalized cold email or segmented cold email. And I think that's, what led to so much of his success. So yeah, that's
you have to introduce the state of the world first. You can't just jump into that, right? Or else it's completely out of context. So you have to introduce why why this solution even makes sense.
And to be able to do that, you have to very deeply understand who it is you're trying to solve problems for.
Yeah, I mean you have to talk to 25 to 50 of your ideal customers.
Yep.
And that's
So how many employees do you have now?
5.
And they're all they're paid more than a freelancer, right? It's not you're not, because for us,
They're not contractors, they're actual employees.
Our minimum salary is $80,000 a year.
So how does that feel?
You guys hiring?
How does it feel to manage?
We are.
But how does it feel to manage a team that proficient and that
We have some things that
advanced?
we can improve, and a lot of it stops with me. I have a hard time handing off responsibilities.
Yeah.
I think delegation is the hardest part when you start hiring people, and I'm hiring really competent people. And so we have maybe disagreements around how things should be done, but then I give them the leeway to go do it.
Yeah.
The day-to-day management of the team, we have a daily check-in at 9:30 every day. We go through what'd you do yesterday, what are you doing today, what are your roadblocks. So everyone on the team knows what everyone's working on at all times, including myself. I'm also reporting on what I've done and what I haven't done, I think, which is more important. And then we can diagnose problems every day, and just keep the ball rolling up the hill.
It's a super interesting approach because one of the things we've talked about before is there's different ways, right? We had a guy on here maybe 2 episodes ago named Cam, and he was talking about finding really cheap labor in Peru, and we find some of our labor for our agency in Ukraine and in the Philippines and some of these third world countries, which is one way to do it. Mm-hmm. Your way is more traditional, right? You're building a team, it's higher pay, higher quality. And so talk about that, because as a business owner, one of the number one questions to consider is, margin and everyday take home, right? So how have you kind of put yourself in a position to still take home what you're happy about, but also provide for, these 5 or 6 people that you're paying really good salaries to?
Well, we upped our retainers. That's the easiest way to do it.
increase
Was it like a
prices.
switch where you started off using a lot of freelancers and eventually graduated to that?
I had always used local freelancers. So I'd always used like a lot of the freelancers that we were doing might have been a director full time during their day job. They might have been a VP during their day job. And we would contract them out for, 100, 150 an hour to work on our stuff. So,
And was the reason that you went that route because that
Credibility.
used to be you?
credibility. No, really just credibility. Like we work with well-funded VC. A lot of them are VC backed, and the credibility and the fulfillment is really what it comes down to. I think I sent you this note this morning that I wanted to touch on this. Like if you're charging, our annual contracts are anywhere from 150 to 200,000, and when you're charging that as much as a VP headcount, you need to have really high quality fulfillment. You need to be able to. You have to fulfill on the promise that you give during the sales cycle. So it was just a matter of necessity that we have to have really high quality talent.
And when you're finding these high quality hires, how do you put your ego to the side and say, hey, these guys might be better than me at this specific task. I should, just trust them and let them do their thing, rather than trying to say like, oh, I'm the best. I'm better than you at this. I can do it better. Like, how do you balance that? Running a team, but also letting your team, do work that might be better than you'd be able to do it.
I mean, you just have to have radical self-awareness. Like, I know what I'm not good at. Project management, not that great. Kelsey came in. She's our head of client success. She helped add some more processes to the system. The creative side, like I know enough to be dangerous, but I think Christian, he's our creative director. He really can.
Hey,
he
Christian's
can say,
our
hey,
creative
actually-
director.
That's his name.
Christian's
Yeah.
our creative director. What are you talking about?
And
Wait a second.
yeah,
Is that where Christian's been sneaking out to?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so you just have to be honest with yourself. Like, what are you good at and what do you enjoy? I really enjoy like the narrative and product marketing and the customer voice of customer development side of things. So I want to still be involved in that strategy on accounts. And in order for me to do that, as we start to scale more accounts, I have to give up other things. Yeah. And so, and you have to break away from the idea. And I think this is what a lot of agency owners getting started, they're really just a freelancer. They've really just created a new job for themselves. They say they broke free of the 9 to 5, but now they're working a 6 to 6,
Which is fine, by the way. That's where you
it's
start,
totally
right?
fine. Yeah, totally fine. That's where you start. But if you're going to get serious about it, you have to also, to your margin point, you have to be willing to make a little less. The reason that we're going to continue to grow is because we reinvest a lot of money. Like our retained earnings, I keep a ton of money in the business. I don't take it out. I don't go. I'm not buying a Range Rover or anything like that. Not there's anything wrong with Range Rovers, but I keep a lot of money in the business so we can continue to grow. And I think that's one thing and it's hard. Like I'm 27, so like I'm not that old. If I had done this 5 years ago, like you guys, I would have been ridiculous with the money. Like, and I think you guys are doing a good job with it. Like, it's clear that you're reinvesting. But I think one warning to the people that might be watching this is like your top line revenue is not how much money you're making. Like, and I think that's one thing that gets clouded when you see all the screenshots and the e-com revenue and all of these things. Your top line number is good, but you really should focus on like how much of this can we reinvest into the business? How much, like, what is the minimum amount I can take out to live a comfortable lifestyle? Instead of saying I think a lot of people look at it like what's the most I can take out to keep the business moving forward. I would look at it the opposite way.
Yeah, and I guess another question there is, when I think about reinvesting in the business with a digital agency like ours, we keep a lot in the bank just to have like that leeway.
Yeah.
Kind of have it on the sideline ready for a big investment. But I also just never really know what to invest in. Like, it's kind of hard because you're not running like a factory with like physical machinery that you're like, okay, it's very clear to buy this. So like, do you have a strategy when it comes to reinvesting? Is it mainly talent, or is there like main things that you want to keep an eye on?
Talent, software. We're trying to put some software together, and that is a grind and expensive to do it the right way. You can offshore it. You can. I mean, there's ways to get to whip something up, but if you want to do it the right way, and we're trying to build some APIs into HubSpot and Salesforce and LinkedIn ads, that's it's some serious stuff that you have to have a lot of dollars to put into it. So as an agency, I'm looking at talent, I'm looking at software, and then I'm probably looking at, we're looking at doing an event in August or September in Costa Rica. We're going to have...
Like an offsite?
Yeah, and it's going to be paid, and there's going to be sponsors, but you have to front, we're going to have to front $50,000, $60,000 to get it done. So that's how I look at it. It's just what are the other areas that we can start generating, new clients, new awareness for us, different things like that.
What are the biggest levers to pull, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to make decisions from a place of scarcity. We have 6 months in the bank. If we stop generating revenue today to pay everyone's salary, to not have to change anything, and it's just so unlikely that we're going to go 6 months with all of our clients leaving and then not getting a new client, that you can make decisions from a little bit calmer place instead of being like, man, I accidentally took too much out of the business last month, and now my car payment's coming up, my penthouse payment's coming up, all of this stuff starts coming up, and it makes those bumps harder.
Yeah.
So you just have to create margin in the business, but then you have to create margin in your decision making.
So important. And the awareness of it all is also so important. We do monthly P&L calls, and just knowing your numbers, it's a cliche statement, but you really have to know your numbers.
And taxes, pay your taxes.
Pay your taxes, or just move to Dubai. It's way cooler. But what about education? Because for us, I feel like you're asking where do you invest your money? Talent's one thing, offsites, culture, there's all these different buckets or levers that you could pull. What about education? Are there other agency owners or masterminds that you're a part of that have kind of given you ideas or breakthroughs in the business?
No. Who's the guy?
No.
Join
Sad
Client
no.
Ascension.
No. It's such a size no.
It's not,
Daniel's writing up your Client Ascension contract right now.
Okay,
bro.
perfect. Send me the Stripe link. So like I said, Refine Labs, Chris Walker, he puts out a ton of free content. I think a lot of the stuff is there for free. I think the big gap that people don't do when they're learning something is just implementing it. So how I look at investing is I see a new idea that someone has posted, a test, right? Someone ran a podcast sponsorship test. They spent, $2 to $5 grand. So now I'm like, okay, let's start identifying some podcasts that we can sponsor for $2 to $5 grand. See what it looks like. That's the price of my education, is learning by doing. I don't really my hot take is that you can't learn without doing it. Too many people are watching too many YouTube videos, too many podcasts. If this is your 10th podcast,
stop watching.
Stop watching.
Go write a cold email.
Stop watching and
Before
go ship
you do,
something.
leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel.
But I mean,
No, just mute it, leave it on.
Yeah, okay,
Get on with
leave
your
it
day,
on.
but we
Keep
need
the
algorithm
metrics
to
up.
know
People-
that people love it.
that's the biggest problem is people people want to keep consuming and
People
you just
disguise
go do
education
it.
as progress, where it's I
it's
watched
not.
4 videos today and read 2 books, and it's
It's not. Stop reading books. Stop watching
you
podcasts.
didn't do anything.
So in my opinion, the main benefit of consulting and programs like that is just speed. Because when I'm watching, we work with Cole Gordon's team over at Client Ascension, when I'm watching a video and I'm implementing it, because you're right too, the prerequisite is you actually have to do it, I'll run into an issue, and then I'll hop on the call, I'll ask them, they'll be like, oh, we actually don't even do it that way anymore because we found this workaround, we were struggling with the same problem, this is how you do it. And they had to do XYZ, activity hundreds of times to learn it. Now I kind of know, okay, this is what works after all of these reps. So that's kind of my take around consulting is what you're really paying for is speed. A lot of it's there for free, but even if you're watching the same content from your favorite guru, it always changes, right? The thing that worked last year isn't going to work now, so you're going to have to go through that trial and error more than you would.
I feel like you have
for consulting.
you have to put money up and get skin in the game if you want to educate yourself on a topic, right? Go out, buy the course, buy the consulting, buy the video program, Because once you put the money in, you're actually going to sit down and take the time to do it every single day, as opposed to just watching YouTube videos into oblivion and
For
spending
some
a year
people, though, I
just
feel like
doing
some
nothing.
people need that catalyst, but like others can just do it, right?
Yeah.
Like Kai, for example, he can probably just watch a video and just go do the thing. Like,
But
he
I'm
doesn't
saying
need
if you're
to-
just starting out and you're like, oh, I want to get into email marketing or copywriting, if
Yeah.
you invest a significant portion of your money into something, you're going to actually make sure it works. And then the money that you're spending also gets you that access to people that know how to do it and know how to guide you. Like, you could spend a year trying to figure it out on your own, or you could join, a Client Ascension, a Closers.io, and learn it way faster.
Click the link below.
Scott, where are we putting the link?
And this ad is brought to you. What does Dan do? Like, this ad's brought to you by me, motherfucker.
No, that's the best. He does
so-
his own ads.
I can't remember who said this, but it was like this guy was talking about he was mentoring someone, and they were talking about how they couldn't. It's like, I just don't have the motivation to get up in the morning. And the guy talking about skin in the game. The guy said, well, how about you go get a mortgage payment, go get a Rolls Royce, go get basically build out all of your expenses. He's like, that'll get you up in the morning. And I think that is one catalyst, is that
Interesting
people could
idea.
invest a bunch of money, and you kind of create like this has to work. I would say like that's positive in the short term. I would say you should learn to regulate your emotions and your mindset to where you can generate this has to work without having to actually put that much risk into it.
I feel like for me, like what gets me out of bed in the morning is knowing that I have a team that I'm responsible for. Like if I don't show up today, like Christian and Dan are not eating. No, not actually, but no, like I
Sir,
have,
please.
I'll buy you lunch.
but like we have
I
like,
feel like having a team makes it way easier to get up because you're like, I'm not just doing this for me. Like, if I
Yeah.
don't get up, I'm letting my friends down and my
Well,
business partners down.
I mean, it's also like, why are you doing it? Like, why are the people that just getting started even doing it? Is it to make extra money? Okay, but like, don't stop there. Why do you want to make the extra money?
so I want to ask you that question. Like,
Yeah.
why are you doing it? And also I'm sure another big influence in your life is your family. Like you just had a
Yeah.
daughter not too long ago. So
She's
how is
8
that?
months old today.
Oh,
Yeah.
congrats, dude. Yeah, that's wholesome as fuck.
Why do I do it?
like, yeah, like how has that changed how you show up in your business and just in your life in general?
I'd be lying if I said I didn't do it for the ego, because it's enjoyable to consult with people and then get the results, and then you're celebrated a little bit. I think the second piece of it, I really enjoy working with cool people. I built a really awesome team that I want to work with for a long time, and so in order for me to basically pick and choose who I want to work for or who I want to work with is through a business. Like I couldn't do that if I was, even if I got hired in as like a VP of marketing at a company, I still have to answer to like the CFO if I want to bring in someone maybe a little bit higher up salary than we had budgeted, right? And so I have the freedom to make those decisions. So that's why I do it, because I want to work with cool people, and I enjoy the fulfillment of being celebrated for having the right answer.
Andre and I were discussing this the other day, where I feel like it's almost impossible to not have a mix of like outside ego, making others like showing others that you're competent and you have skills and you can accomplish things, but then also having an intrinsic drive where it's like, if no one even knew what you were doing, would you still be doing it? And my answer to that is yes, because of the lifestyle it affords you, the freedom it brings you. So in my opinion, it's a mix of that ego where you're trying to, prove to others that you're good at what you do. And then it's also intrinsic where you can create this reality for yourself through your business.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people stop at the cars and the watches, and we all like our watches. I think people stop at the cars and the watches and the house and this, but like, why do you want those things? A lot of times it comes down to external validation, right? Like it's usually a big. I think some people are over-indexed on the ego side and maybe under-indexed on the internal discipline side.
Yeah.
And so asking yourself multiple times, okay, why do I want the car? Why do I want that car? Why do I want a car? Why do I want this car versus that car? It's asking yourself those questions. You start to figure out who you are, and then that intellectual honesty with yourself helps you delegate better. It helps you recognize that you can't do everything in the business. So yeah, it's, I guess, intellectually honest with yourself.
So how have your priorities changed since you had your daughter, since you've kind of, turned more into a family man than than a college guy
Less,
and a frat guy.
yeah, a lot less beers, I would say. Yeah, it's nice. Like she's getting to that age. Like she's 8 months, so she's like laughing. She's kind of babbling. She's got a little bit of a personality. That's a lot of fun, and it's not a lot of fun to be hungover with a baby. So like I think your life changes in that sense. Like we would, go out to dinners and do that whole thing, play golf, have a couple beers, and I think it's just those things start to change. And right after this, I'm gonna go back home and we'll probably make lunch and have a great afternoon. So
Very wholesome. Love
yeah,
it.
I think it's like how do you recharge? And I wear the Whoop, like your recovery score. It's almost like internal, emotional recovery. I think that a baby is a hack to that. I'm not saying don't go out and have a baby if you're not ready, but yeah, the emotional recovery, kind of when it's a shit day at the office and you come home and she's there, it's yeah, that's how the game changes.
Damn.
I
I feel like a lot of the people watching this are very much in the phase of, I need to go get the cars and the watches and
I know. I think
not hang out with your baby.
I feel like
And
that would
that's-
also drive like in a, I guess, backwards way. Like having a kid would also drive kind of your external ego as well, and wanting to be celebrated as somebody who's good at something.
Yeah.
Because I feel like your kid's gonna grow up, and you don't want them to just look at their dad and see like
He's a burger flipping loser.
he's just one of the 6
Yeah.
billion NPCs, and like he's not known for being good at anything. Like
yeah.
and I think I want her to have a level of stability that I had growing up, and like she's ideally she can decide to do whatever she wants to do, and hopefully we have enough resources kind of stored away that she's allowed to do that. I don't want her to have to be forced to do anything that she didn't really want to do.
So you're not one of those guys who's like give your kids nothing.
Not give them nothing. I mean, give them enough to succeed. I mean, you should always want them to be in a better spot than you were. I think the give your kids nothing thing is well intentioned, but I don't think it has the desired outcome that most people are
don't
going
either.
for. I think you can instill discipline in other ways instead of just scarcity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like nothing is like such a relative term because like when I was growing up, I had, sneakers. I had a really shitty car, but it was still a car that I could drive around in at 16.
Tons of food.
So
Like, a
much
lot of-
food, bro. Like, chicken and rice and sloppy steaks all the time.
And that's the other thing is like the comparison. Comparison is a thief of joy, right? So someone's always gonna have a bigger car. Someone's always gonna have a bigger house. Someone's always
yeah.
gonna. I just saw it on Twitter. There was a couple that they made I think $3 million. They live in St. Louis. They feel like millionaires. There was another guy who had a $50 million exit, and he's living in a high rise in Manhattan, and he feels like he can't keep up because he's
Yeah.
with a bunch of billionaires.
Yeah,
Well, it's
so
like the
looking
Dale
back on it-
Carnegie quote. It's like everyone's monetary goal is just one more dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it doesn't like if the money is the driving factor, it's never gonna like that's
There's
not
no
gonna,
end goal.
No, it's not gonna.
We had a podcast, and we were on our podcast in college, and we interviewed this billionaire who started a gym franchise and like sold like 100 different gym locations, and we were like, dude, like you're a billionaire, you have all these cars, like that must be sick. He's like, yeah, but I lost my, I had a divorce and I don't see my kids anymore, so what's it really worth?
What's it all worth?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not fun riding in a Ferrari alone, really, years on end. I think it probably gets
I think
pretty
it would
old.
be pretty fun.
No, I think it'd get pretty old.
A Ferrari, come on.
So
yeah, you lose interest after you get it, right?
It's just what's important, and what's important today isn't going to be the same thing of what's important tomorrow. But I think you have to figure out why the things that you think are important to you. Everyone says find your why, find your why. You don't have to figure out why you're doing anything. To figure out why the things that are important to you are important, and you're going to have.
So you
some
think if
answer.
someone is materialistic, that's okay if it's important to them?
Sure, I'd figure out why.
Yeah.
Like,
I like nice things, and I
Yeah.
ask myself this all the time. Like, I love luxury things, like nice hotels, nice houses, nice cars, and like what I come back to always is it just is like a sense of safety.
yeah,
and
exactly.
cleanliness. Like, I like things being clean, and it just makes me feel safe. Like,
That's why we're getting a new apartment without them. Because our
that's
sink
why
is
I'm
filled
moving
with
out
dishes.
of the place with these guys.
Shout out Blanca.
But I just like keeping things clean and organized, and to me, that makes me feel safe for whatever reason. It's just
Yeah,
I
safety.
ask
Yeah,
myself
I
this
feel like
question.
if I owned like a really cool car that went fast, I wouldn't be like, hey, everyone, look at my car. It goes fast. Like, it would just be fun as shit to drive. Like, I don't care what anyone else thinks.
And that's good, yeah. And that's fine.
Yeah.
I think, but you have to have that conversation with yourself, you know?
100%.
I've been in the
Yeah.
car phase before, but
I feel
it's not like I'm not saying anything is right or wrong. I'm just
not
saying
yeah.
it's better to ask yourself why you want these things. And
Yep.
and especially if you're going from 0 to 1, if you're at 5,000 a month, 10,000 a month, 15,000 a month, then that's when it's really important to start asking yourself why, you know.
Personally, I think I've realized that experiences, trips, vacations are
Way better.
way more fun than
Way better.
the car, the watch.
This kind of goes into like what you do really well, which is like going back to business a little bit, is fulfillment, right? Because I feel like people get into business, even in the agency space. I've seen people get in and they're always just like, oh, how can I outsource everything and just focus on sales and marketing? Basically, just get clients in the door, start cash flowing, and forget about them after the fact.
Yeah.
You take a way different approach, right? You don't even do outbound marketing.
No.
How do you
And-
get your leads? They just come to you?
All referrals. Like if you do really strong fulfillment, then you're going to get really strong referrals, and you're going to get really good clients. So yeah, we're all referral based and partner based a little bit, right? We have like a couple, the guys at Numa. They we have conversations with some of their clients and a couple other agencies that we have good partnerships with. But yeah, fulfillment is everything. Like I think that's also one thing. If you're not focused on fulfillment, then you might be doing this for the wrong reason. It might be a yellow flag. I won't say it's a red flag, but if you're not just wildly focused on client success, there might be something that you need to look at there. It would probably tell me that you're over-indexing on the money side of things. Half of our clients have been with us over a year. A couple of our clients just renewed for another year, so we're going to be pushing like 3 years with the same people. I really enjoy that side of things, and that just it happens to in turn bring us back with decent retainers, and then everyone on the team is well compensated. So it all comes back to the results that you deliver. And I think a lot of people starting out, it's so easy to sell some of these things. Like it's wildly easy to say, I'm going to get 15 calendar invites on your thing every month. You guys know it. I mean, it's fairly easy to sell. The fulfillment side of it is a whole nother ball game. I think that's what
I think it's a really fine line of having a strong enough guarantee on the front end to get people in the door, but then not making too outlandish of a guarantee to where once they sign, you're like, oh shit, I don't know how to fulfill.
And unless
on
you're
this.
actually good at fulfillment and have the proof, you're capped in terms of how high you can go with your retainer.
I feel like with pay-per-call lead gen, it got to the point where dudes were like, I'll book 70 calls on your calendar this month. It's like, I'll book 80, I'll book 90.
Yeah,
It's like,
I don't need 70.
I don't want 70
give me
calls.
Yeah,
three
it's like
good
it's like
clients.
that ad that I used to always see on Instagram where it's like, what would 1,300 new appointments each month do for your service-based
Break my business.
I would literally jump off a bridge if I had 1,300 calls.
I feel like we were talking about creating a new angle within an industry like the Salesforce cloud stuff. I feel like a new angle for lead gen is like, we're not going to book you 70 calls. We're going to book you 7 really, really qualified calls that you can go out
I would
and
love
close.
that.
Yeah.
If someone wants to do that and email me, I'll take them up on their offer. I'll pay you $15,000 a contract.
Add
to
Kai to
close.
our cold email sequence.
Yeah, I mean, it also comes down, like, I think building a healthy business is different than creating an offer. I think creating an offer is part of building a healthy business. I think you guys have done that with Client Ascension and Knowledge X. But it's not just about the offer. It's about the fulfillment. It's about the client success. It's about the ongoing relationships that you build with people.
Yeah, I feel
It's
like-
about credibility. Like if I go out and I guarantee all of these things and then I fail on it, like that's a ding to your credibility every time.
And your
Yeah.
confidence.
And your confidence, yeah. But those dopamine hits when you close the deal, I mean, when you have a really strong offer,
Get the
it's
get.
just the offer, like you have to be able to fulfill the offer. And there's a gap, at least in the companies that come to us from another agency, usually there was a gap in expectations versus actual results.
Yeah, for me at this point, it's like when Danny closes a deal, I'm like, let's get to work. I'm
Yeah,
not even
yeah.
like celebrating yet because I'm like,
The hard
job's
part,
just starting.
that was the easiest part.
Yeah.
The easiest part is selling the
The
deal.
dopamine for me is like when we have like a zap to show clients when a call is booked on their calendar. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's go.
Yeah, because you've realized how important fulfillment is. That's the only way they stay with you. And I think people think that the sales part is the hardest part, and that's not the hardest part. That's the easiest.
An interesting conversation too is I think it was Jesse Itzler on like Ed Milet's podcast, and he was talking about like when you provide a service and when you're fulfilling for client work or whatever, results are obviously king. They're most important, but what's also really important is the experience you create for them.
Yep.
And so I guess what are some tools or strategies or tips you'd say to service providers out there to create like a really smooth, exciting, unique experience for clients outside of just providing really good results?
I think we still have some work to do here, but we have, Slack notifications when because we're doing a lot of demo bookings for software companies. Yep. So when demos are booked, we have a Slack notification, let's go. When new campaigns are launched, doing a celebration there. When a lot of these companies have board of director meetings every quarter, so we're helping them put the board of director call together so they don't feel like they have to go find all this data. We kind of bring it to them. And like, I think just trying to get them thinking as least amount as possible about what we're doing. The more they're thinking about it, the worse we're doing usually.
Yeah.
And so you want your clients to be like, all right, yep, those guys are on autopilot. We don't have to worry about them.
Yeah. Something else I admire about your agency is you have 7, 8 clients.
Nine right now, yeah.
So you work with a really small batch of clients. You do the same fulfillment for all of them, and you're just very focused on what you do. I feel like the pitfall of some people is just trying to do everything at once. Like, I'll do your email marketing, I'll do your website's landing page, like have 1 million clients and take on all these opportunities. Like, how do you stay narrow focused on your 9 clients? You're going to wake up and you're going to deliver value for these 9 clients, and that's it.
Talking about joining something like Client Ascension to skip the mistakes, I've done it before. Like, I've sold everything before, and I've lost clients. Before this agency, it was really around the consulting side. And I've lost clients because we sold a bunch of stuff that we didn't really know how to do. And it's hard to say no to new revenue when you're doing 5,000 a month, 10,000 a month. It's really hard. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but again, you have to get intellectually honest with yourself on these sales calls and be like, can we do what we're telling them we're going to do?
I feel like people will respect you a lot more if you're like, I can't.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, we say the amount of times that I could have built an SEO wing to what we do and made an extra, 20 or 30 grand a month. But instead I say, we don't do that. That's not really where we specialize. Go talk to Nuva Media. Those guys, they know what they're doing. Like so you have to say no to what you have to turn down money basically, which is kind of counterintuitive for some people when you're getting started.
The other thing with fulfillment too, because you hit on a lot of key points like celebrating milestones and results with marketing, like services that you provide and that we provide, it's not always a smooth process, right? It's not always straight to results. It's not always successful. And so what I've seen a lot of younger, newer business owners and agency owners struggle with, and what I've even struggled with in the past and still to this day, is how do you communicate where you're at in the most honest way, even if it's not where you want to be or where the clients want you to be? So
I think expectation management is really one of the biggest things that you have to learn as an agency owner. It starts from your first sales call. Are they coming to us with unrealistic expectations? One thing I've noticed is that the really easy closes can tend to be headaches on the back end, and the really hard closes tend to be our best clients, because the really hard closes forces you to be honest about the expectation. They're cutting deep. They're asking about your process. Who am I going to be working with? What are some of the results you've seen? And then they have a deeper understanding of expectations and timelines. The fast closes skip over that, but I've found that they've skipped over that because they already have an expectation set in their head that they might have gotten from another agency or another contact, or this is how long it should take for me. And so it starts on the first sales call. If we're behind on a project, we're just going to address it first thing. We have weekly check-ins with our clients. It's the number one thing on our agenda. Don't bury the lead. Like, hey, this is what's not going right. Here's what we're doing to fix it. Here's what we need from you, and work together. I think a lot of times people avoid bad news, and it's gonna keep getting worse. Like
Yeah, I feel like the thing is, if you bring bad news to the to the table or to the Slack chat, you have to come with a solution to what you're doing to resolve it, right?
yeah, here's what's going on. Here's what we're doing on our side, and here's what we need from you. Those are the
Yeah.
three things.
Yep.
And if you do that for every problem you come into, then they're gonna trust you more and more and more.
And I feel like an underrated tip for client success and client relationships and managing your clients is just make their voice feel heard too. Like,
Yeah.
not just like obviously that you want them to trust you as an expert, but also getting their opinion on things. Just asking like what they think we should, not having them dictate what you're doing, but just having them voice their opinion and leaning on them for a bit of their expertise too.
They know their business better than you know their business, 100%. And I think executive presence is another problem that agency owners might run into. Can I communicate with a CEO who's 45 years old, who's been in business for 25
It's
years?
tough. We have some boomer clients that are a little tough.
But yeah, so can you communicate? Can you talk in terms of gross profit versus net profit? What's our margin on this? How much can we actually afford to pay to get a new client in? Okay, well then we either need to get our advertising costs down, or we need to get our cost per customer up. Like, what's our average contract value? Have we thought about selling 3-month agreements instead of 6-month agreements? Like, you have to be able to talk through them about how, like, the function of their business, because email marketing, ads, videos, whatever it is, web design, none of it operates in a vacuum. It's a part of their entire business. So you kind of have to be able to speak to all of those things, and in a way that they're like, okay, yeah, this person knows what they're doing. They're not just bullshitting me with some template that they found online. That's, the executive presence piece is really important, especially as you start going up market and having bigger retainers and enterprise level agreements.
Yeah, it's got to be a different game, because we work with a lot of these newer agency owners, like smaller, and like their hierarchical structure is like, it's just them.
Yeah.
You're dealing with like departments and leads and VPs and
Yeah, like our clients have, our smallest client might be 20 employees, and I think our biggest has a couple hundred. And so you have to be able to communicate what this function is doing, because they're investing a lot of money in it. So it's being talked about in their internal calls. So how are you giving the team you're working with directly enough firepower to articulate what's going on? Like, the worst thing you want is a client being like a CEO asking your VP who you're working with what's going on, and they say, I don't know. You don't like that. That's bad.
Yeah, and it becomes even more important not to bury the lead. Because
Yeah,
if they're having team meetings, they're like, what's going on with Kai's agency? And they're like, we actually haven't heard from him, but we also haven't seen demos. So they're just always going to jump to worst case scenario. And like, now they're coming to this point where, oh, do we need to make a decision to stay on or leave? And I feel like people will respect that a lot more if you're not like, oh, things aren't going well, let's wait. And then when we have good news, then we'll communicate. Like, no, you need to keep the regular scheduled programming going.
Yep.
It's a weekly check-in,
Yeah.
but whatever. You got to be really transparent
And
with
you
them.
sign like 12-month retainers, right?
Yeah, 12-month agreements. We'll sometimes do a 90-day like ripcord. So if they're in, and I think we've had 2 back out of that in the last 2 years. If they come in and they don't like what's going on, or maybe the business, something changes in the business, but yeah, 12-month agreements.
Dude, how do you on a sale? I don't know anything about sales. This is more for Dan, but like, how do you close someone on such a massive retainer? Like, that's insane for me to think about.
Referrals. They're talking to their peers. Their peer just generated $1.5 million in revenue and $4 million in pipeline working with us.
Yeah. Okay, so the first one that you had no referrals for, how did you get that one over the line?
Well, I'd just done it in my day job. Starting from 0 to 1, and you haven't had a day job and you've never done any results before, it's going to be hard. Social proof and previous experience is not underrated, and I think some people would be better off getting a 9-to-5 job and getting 2 or 3 years of experience and then doing their own thing.
Yeah, because even when you're starting from scratch, you can still use the same framework. Hey, I helped this company achieve this.
Yeah.
Like, even though it wasn't your agency, you are still the one who drove that result.
Go be an email marketing manager for a 40 or 50 person company and work there for 2 or 3 years and get some stats under your belt. and you de-risk yourself because you're basically learning on the paycheck you're getting from them. You're getting paid to learn, basically. I think a lot of people think they need to jump in and have their own business and do all this and do all that. Like, the only reason we're able to get to where we are now is because we've stacked all of these case studies on top of each other.
You almost have to like earn it.
Yeah, you got to earn it.
100%.
Yeah,
Like,
it's,
and what
it's
I mean
hard.
by that
It's
is,
hard.
like,
It's
Yes.
hard. It is hard.
yeah, and what I mean by that is, like, even if you go and get the experience at a brand as an email marketer, you can't just jump into a business and sell these high ticket retainers right away. Maybe you can.
No, we started at when I started, we were at 2,000 a month, a lot more limited scope, and we just slowly knocked it up, and now we're at 14 a month, but it took 3 years to get here.
Exactly.
It's not you can't do it in 6 months.
Dude, with our agency, it's so crazy. We started with pay-per-call, which means like they don't pay unless they get the result that they're coming to us for, right? So if we don't get the result, we don't get paid, even though there are costs on our end to try to deliver the result. And then we went to a retainer. I think our first retainer was like $597 a month.
Yeah.
And then it was like $797, then $1,100, then $1,500, and then $2,500, and then now it's $3,500. But that was over the course of 2 years and probably 100 clients served.
Yep.
And a lot of lessons learned.
Yeah, and you can demand the 3,500 because you've learned 100 times the way to do it right, the way to do it wrong, things to skip over. You can get your time to value a lot shorter. So your time to value at 597 might have been 6 months, right? Your time to value at 3,500 might be 2 months or 3 months. So it's a little bit shorter, and then you're working with a little bit more sophisticated clients, which makes delivery a lot easier. I think there's a lot of factors when it comes to the sales side of things.
Yeah, and if you continue to be intellectually honest with yourself, you start to learn who this is going to work for and who it isn't going to work for. And if you can be transparent there, you're going to take on better clients, get better results, and the better results you get, the more you can charge. And it's also it's really interesting because we kind of like went through that transition. We could have moved faster maybe, but there's this saying, and I can't remember what podcast I was listening to, that a lot of times a company will collapse as quickly as it was built. And I feel like that's super common in the agency space specifically. Like, people will get to 15K a month, 20K a month, and then just lose everything. Like, we're running this week, it's super relevant. We did like a re-engagement campaign to everybody we've booked a call with over the past 2 years. It was like, I don't know, it was like 500, 600 people. And like, I'm an idiot, so I didn't verify the emails before like doing the group sending from my CRM. Like 20% of these people out of business. I was like, is there something wrong with like my email right now? Like, copy and paste the domains, like they just no longer exist.
Yeah.
So I feel like
because
that's
most likely focused on the money didn't come, or they took too much out of the business. 20 grand a month is not that much money when you have expenses and payroll and staff, and then you're taking money out on top of that. People are running a 20K a month agency, and they're living like they're making 30K a month in a salary job. Like, you have to keep reinvesting in the business, and that's the only way to keep going. Like, if you don't have cash, and like, the number one rule of business is don't run out of cash.
Yeah.
So if you're not putting cash away into a business emergency fund, when there are hiccups, when you go from 20K to 10K, you can eat that loss instead of having to shut down the business because you've inflated your expenses so much.
Yeah, and a lot of the times it wasn't even. It may not have even been like expenses getting too high or lifestyle inflation. It's just they were never committed to the fulfillment in the first place. Like, you look up what these guys are doing now, and they were running a Klaviyo agency, but then they went to a TikTok agency. Now it's, influencer marketing or something.
Short form.
Yeah, short form content, but like they just keep hopping from thing to thing
because it's how can I make the most money today, not how can I build a business that's still running in 5 years. It's just two different ways of looking at it.
When we first started, like, everyone did a cold email lead gen agency, and then we stuck with it, and 99% of people jumped. And then it was email marketing because of that course from Chase Diamond, so everyone was doing a Klaviyo agency. And now I get like 7 DMs a day. It's like, yo, I could do short form for you. It's like, dude, there's so many people popping up with the same offer. Like, just pick one thing and stick with it for a year plus, and you'll guarantee you'll be the only
get good
person
at it.
left.
Like, for example, the guy we use, Presley, who's all over Twitter, like, you can even tell just with his like throwaway content when he's making like, the videos like, oh, money Twitter this, and it's just like funny. You could tell like, okay, he's actually really good at creating short form content, but he's committed to that specific part, the fulfillment. and not necessarily just selling as many people as you can on a turnkey solution.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the fulfillment brings you more clients when you do a really good job.
Yep.
You're not gonna have to worry about new clients. If you don't care about your clients, then you're always gonna have to worry about new clients. It's kind of like catch-22.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, 100%. What do they call it? It's like you can't outsell your churn,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of our audience, I would say, are probably more in the beginner bucket, just getting started with their agency. Where Christian, Dan, and I are like 2 or 3 years into it. You're even further ahead in it. So I guess like we talked about fulfillment, we talked about hiring a team, we talked about managing cash flow, investing the right way, having the proper motivations. What's like one lesson that you learned early on when you were starting that that is like a principle, like a staple in your life and how you show up in your business?
Underpromise and overdeliver.
Love that.
I think the best agencies probably don't have a guarantee. They undersell what they're going to do, and then they overdeliver. You do that 10 times in a row, you're going to have a pretty solid business because you're just going to keep getting referrals off of that. So, yeah, underpromise and overdeliver.
Solid. Wrapping up.
Yeah, I guess to kind of gear this more towards like a personal conversation is like you've had a lot of success in business. You're having a lot of success in your family life. Like what does 2023 look like for you? What are some things that you are trying to improve on, do more of, do less of?
Trying to get my golf game dialed in.
Go from a 2 handicap
I was
to
going
a
to say, he's
scratch.
already kicking our ass.
I'm up to like a 7.5 now.
No, still breaking 80. No.
I had it down to a 5, and now I've creeped back up. I actually just joined the USAM tour. It's like they have a bunch of amateur golf tournaments. I'm actually playing in one tomorrow, about an hour and a half north of here,
Nice.
with my uncle. But it's like a little amateur circuit. They have it online, USGA, whatever. So I'm gonna start doing more of that this year. Try to play in like 2 events a month and see if we can't get the game dialed in. Yeah.
We're gonna do a podcast like 2 years from now when you're in
Kai Shaw,
you got the
Masters winner.
coming up.
No,
He's got the
He's
green
like,
jacket on.
Nah, it's live golf.
Yeah. Well, I would take the live bag for sure.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just like to be. I think balance is a big piece of it. Just be balanced. Don't be all work. Don't be all fun. Don't be all do a little bit of everything and sprinkle this stuff throughout. Dopamine regulation, right? What's Huberman? Andrew Huberman. He's all about it. Just
Those
gotta
Huberman types.
create the.
He'll be in this chair at some point.
hits
That'd be
and
so sick.
just live a balanced life. Don't go crazy in either area. Just
Love it.
kind of
But there will be seasons.
seasons
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, we Scott and I were in WeWork until 6 o'clock yesterday on a Friday, and then there'll be days where I'm gonna be on the golf course on Friday, right? So you have to kind of work the season you're in, but nothing's permanent. The hustle, you don't have to hustle all the time, and you probably shouldn't be full leisure all the time either.
Yeah, I think another big thing is like if you have to hustle all the time to force growth, you're not doing the right thing as a business owner.
Yeah, you kind of gotta hold on loosely. What's that 38 Special song?
Oh, that's a great song.
Yeah, hold.
That's actually what it's called.
Yeah, hold the business like a bird. Don't white knuckle everything.
Yeah.
And again, it comes back to the cash management. If you have enough cash flow to relax and make informed decisions instead of making how can we pay the bills next week decisions, you're gonna go a lot farther.
Put it all in red.
Yeah. That was fun. I drank 2 coffees. I feel jazzed. I might go
Love it.
run or something.
We
I
got
don't
any
know.
action on
Oh,
this
did you guys run?
No.
No.
I did run, but not with
Nice.
Kai.
Not with me. I didn't run this morning. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I guess one more topic I want to hit on is we've had a lot of conversations since we've moved down here. I feel like I'm always learning something from you. Scott says the same thing. Everyone that I talk to that has interacted with you down here has, gems and learnings that they can take away and implement from their business. So I guess, are we going to see more of you on social media
need
and
more
content?
content on
We
Twitter,
need
man.
content.
I don't know. We're talking about this
I think you could help a lot of
documentary
people.
thing. We're talking
No.
about this documentary thing
no.
with Scott. I think it'd be interesting. I want to do, I kind of want to document what it's like from us from our first call with a client to 6 months, 8 months in, when we're generating hundreds of thousands or 7 figures plus in pipeline for them. I think that would be really interesting. I think we have to find a client that's willing to be outward facing, and I think a lot of there's a lot of security things and information privacy things with some of our clients that they don't want that. But yeah, I don't know. I think I like what I'm doing now. I'm enjoying what we're doing. So there might be more content, there might not. I don't know. You guys can.
We shall see.
Whatever you're doing is working. So
As long as there's that ChatGPT thread coming up.
No, I think I'm gonna have to block it because I love reading. I would say
I feel like it just depends on how granular the subject is. Like, here's how you can use ChatGPT for your marketing. It's like, use a specific use case and then it's valuable.
Yeah, and it's
I just
hot.
feel I feel targeted, bro.
It's hot today.
Well, you have a specific use case for running an agency.
he's been ChatGPT maxing for like
It's
3
hot.
weeks straight.
I mean, it's cool, but I've been using. I mean, I use Jasper. I was one of the first 5,000 people to sign up for Jasper.
That's cool.
3 years ago. So I think I'm paying $100 a month for unlimited copy, and I use it. We use it every now and then, but
I don't even like using AI.
I've seen it. So ChatGPT is just like another iteration of it.
Yeah.
It's hot right now. I think the steam will die off, but I think there's days where I want to write more content, and there's days where I don't really care. I really enjoy reading Twitter threads. I really enjoy the Cultural Tutor. You know that guy? He writes
No.
Yeah, you should check it out. He writes historical threads about all kinds of stuff, like how the Mona Lisa is.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's like 30.
I read a thread about how the guy invented sriracha sauce, but he didn't trademark the name sriracha, so now everyone can call it sriracha.
Yeah.
That's sick.
There's all the franchise guy who writes the threads on the franchises. I really like that.
Those are super interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. I like consuming content, and I think it just depends on where you're at, and what you like to do. So do more of what you like to do. I think.
Yeah.
That's really it. What's one thing you'd leave the audience with, whether it be an action item, a quote, a shit post, whatever it is? What's on your mind?
Action alleviates anxiety.
Love that.
Yeah.
Kai Shaw, everyone. Where can they find you on Twitter, social
I
media?
think it's marketing _ Kai. I don't know.
Marketing _
Marketing
KY.
Kai KY.
I think it's Kai _ Shaw, no?
Let's figure it out right now.
I don't know.
Figure it out.
I think it is Kai _
This
Shaw.
We'll
is a
figure it
problem.
out.
Keep the camera rolling.
DemandOS.com.
Kai _ Shaw.
Kai
Marketing
_ Shaw. So follow
Running a
Kai on
demand
social media.
If they made it here.
If you made it here, if you made it here, I just want to speak directly to you and just say thank you for the support. Dan, Christian, and I, and Scott, even Mr. Producer back there, we're super appreciative of the support you're all showing. We're putting a lot into this, not just money, but also time, and we're bringing a lot of cool people to this setup. And we'd love to hear
288 subs.
288 subs. We had over 100,000 views in our first month, over 1,000 hours of our content being watched, which is just crazy to think about. So thank you all so much. It means a lot. And if you're still here, please share this with a friend, subscribe to the channel, like the
subscribe, all
video,
that.
comment, and just let us know what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of. So we appreciate it. We love you guys. And
Yeah,
Good
man.
stuff.
Gotta go drop off
Thanks.
some videotapes.
Yeah.
That was all right.